Good afternoon, everyone. So yesterday we have completed in the history of repertory. We completed Hahnemannian era or the repertories during the Hahnemann's time. Now, then after Dr. Hahnemann, Dr. Boning-Hussein's era, it is also called as the period of Dr. Boning-Hussein. So by this time and within 2 years of its taking to homeopathy, Boning-Hussein had compiled its first repertory, that is repertory of antisoric, with a preface by Dr. Hahnemann in 1832 under active inspiration from Hahnemann himself, as Hahnemann was very much interested in Boning-Hussein's work. He used this repertory in his daily practice instead of jars, and this work later on became of progenitor of future repertories to come. So Dr. Hahnemann, he first compiled his own index of symptoms, but as he was not satisfied with the arrangement, with his own index, as well as Dr. Jar, he was not able to publish his repertory, so it was remain unpublished, and after him many his followers, they write down their own index of symptoms, but unfortunately Dr. Hahnemann, he was not satisfied with all those index, whatever his followers were written, and so it is not get published. It was not accepted by Dr. Hahnemann, but he was very much satisfied with Dr. Boning-Hussein's work, and also he promote Dr. Boning-Hussein to write down his own index of symptoms. And as Dr. Boning-Hussein, he came in contact with Dr. Hahnemann in near about 1830, and within 2 years after he came with contact with Dr. Hahnemann, after within 2 years only, he completed his own index of symptoms, and it is the name of that index was given as a repertory of antisoric remedies. All antisoric remedies are included in that repertory, and this repertory was written, it was the preface of this repertory, it is given by Dr. Hahnemann himself, as well as he liked the arrangement of the repertory, he was satisfied whatever his expectations, how to write down the own index of symptoms. In the same way, Dr. Boning-Hussein, he completed his repertory, and so it was ready for publication, and it was published in 1832 under active inspiration from Dr. Hahnemann himself. And after publication, Dr. Boning-Hussein, Dr. Hahnemann, they used his repertory of antisoric remedies in daily practice instead of using jars, and this work later on became of progenitor of future repertories to come. So it became a inspiration, it become a guide how to write down the further repertories. So it became a progenitor of further repertories, and at that time they use this repertory in their daily practice in clinic. Then the book had extremely logical arrangement with alphabetical order and systematic arrangement and introduction of most useful innovation in the form of gradation or valuation of drugs, and up to this day we follow more or less Boning-Hussein's standard of valuation of drugs. Means in this book, in his first repertory, it was or the symptoms, the rubrics, they are arranged alphabetically. In there is systemic arrangement for symptoms and introduction of most useful innovations with that repertory, like gradations or valuations which is given to drugs. This concept that give values to the drug, to write down the drugs, the name of medicines in different grades. It is also given to homeopathy by Dr. Boning-Hussein. So this was the most useful innovation with this repertory, that is gradations or valuation of drug. And till today we follow his valuable innovation, that is gradations or evaluation of drug. Till today we are using the gradations for repertorization. We count the total gradations, any particular remedy which cover, and then only we can find out the group of medicines which cover most symptoms with high grades. Then he continued his work in an attempt to condense the space, and in 1835, am I audible? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Hello? Okay, so he continued his work in an attempt to condense the space, and in 1835 published Repertory of Medicines which are not antisodic. As in the introductory first lecture we discuss about all these things, that is the first repertory which was published in homeopathy was Dr. Boning-Hussein's repertory of antisodic medicine. The second repertory is also of Dr. Boning-Hussein's only, and the name of that repertory was Repertory of Medicines which are not antisodic, as well as it is also called as Repertory of Asodic Remedies. Then in 1836, his another great idea and publication appeared as attempt at showing the relative kinship of homeopathic remedies or medicines. So the third repertory of Dr. Boning-Hussein, that is attempt at showing the relative kinship of homeopathic medicines. It was published in 1836, and after working very hard between 1836 to 1846 to produce a concise, comprehensive index, his masterpiece, Therapeutic Pocket Book, was published in 1846, which was a culmination of his lifetime's work and genius, which spellbound the profession for half a century to come. So, as one after another his three repertories get published. The first one was Repertory of Antisoric, which was published in 1832. Then after that, in 1835, the Repertory of Medicines which are not antisoric, or Repertory of Asoric Remedies. And then after that, in 1836, his another repertory, that is attempt at showing the relative kinship of homeopathic medicines, it was get published. And all these three repertories that together combine and form his masterpiece, and it is nothing but his great work. The name of his work, his great work, is Therapeutic Pocket Book, which is the combination of all above three repertories which were published previously, and his masterpiece, that is Therapeutic Pocket Book, which was published in 1846. So in this way, one by one, his four repertories are get published, and his Therapeutic Pocket Book was very much useful till today. In clinic, many homeopaths, they are using this repertory for repertorization, because this repertory is very helpful when we get the complete symptom, when we get the proper complete totality. Then he introduced the doctrine of analogy, doctrine of concomitants, which are used even today. As Dr. Boning Hussain, he introduced many concepts newly to the homeopathy. He gave newly many ideas to the homeopathy. In that, first is the gradation of remedy, then the second is the doctrine of analogy. Doctrine of analogy, which in detail we discuss further when we started with repertory, that is Boni Hussein's Therapeutic Pocket Book. In doctrine of analogy, according to Dr. Boni Hussain, we should take each and every symptom as a complete symptom, and when we cannot get each and every symptom as a complete symptom, then consider symptom of one part, or modality, sorry, not symptom, modality of one part as whole person's modality. Wherever we cannot get the modalities, we consider one part's modalities as a whole person's modality. That means grand generalization. So this concept of doctrine of analogy, grand generalization, then doctrine of concomitant, that means he gave importance to concomitant symptoms. According to Dr. Hahnemann, PQRS symptoms are, he gave the name PQRS symptoms, which are very peculiar, rare, uncommon symptoms, and Dr. Boni Hussain, he gave the name to those symptoms as concomitant symptoms. The symptoms which directly doesn't have any pathology with the main complaint, but they came with the, or present with the chief complaint. So it is called as concomitant symptom. And this doctrine is also first time, this concept is also first time introduced to homeopathy by Dr. Boni Hussain. Also, this was the very first repertory which was based and structured on a philosophical concept, which had a principle of its own for its arrangement as well as use, and which one was the very first repertory for systematic and full repertorization. So till Boni Hussein's repertory get published, there was no repertory which is arranged systematically, which is having a fixed philosophical background, which is having a fixed principle of their own, and there is no proper arrangement, no proper logic to arrange how to arrange the repertory, no proper philosophical background. So the Boni Hussein's repertory, it is called as very first repertory which is having or based and structured on a proper philosophical concept. As Dr. Boni Hussein's, he gave more importance to complete symptom, and according to his philosophy, his repertory also arranged in the same way. So it was based and structured on his philosophical concept, which had a principle of its own. How to use it, how to arrange. It has its principle of arrangement as well as how to use the repertory. It is also its own way. It was also given in how to use that repertory. And so this was very useful repertory for systematic and full repertorization at that time. Thus, he was the first to introduce systematic repertorization with a definite principle of its own, which include doctrine of analogy, doctrine of concomitants, evaluation of drug, and relationship of remedies. So this new concept, that is relationship of remedies, it is also introduced first time by Dr. Boni Hussein to the homeopathy. What is relationship of remedy? Means after first prescription, after giving the first medicine to the patient, then during follow-up or during second prescription, which remedy follows well after the first prescription, or which remedy is inimical, which remedy is antidote the action of first remedy. All these things with action, duration of action of that particular remedy, it is given in relationship of remedy section. So in this way, Dr. Boni Hussein, he introduced all these concepts first time to the homeopathy, that is doctrine of analogy, doctrine of concomitant, doctrine of or evaluation of drugs, and relationship of remedy, as well as his repertory is arranged systematically according to his philosophical background. So till the time of Dr. Boni Hussein, there was no repertory which is arranged in such systematic manner. Then after Boni Hussein's era, it came Dr. Kent's era, or the time of Dr. Kent's. After Boni Hussein had shown the path, so much interest was created for the repertory that in coming 6 decades, about 30 repertories came out. Means, as Dr. Boni Hussein, he shown the path, he gave the idea how to write down with the help of his repertories. The homeopaths, they get the idea how to write down the index of symptoms. So in many homeopaths, the interest was created to write down the repertory, write down their own index, and in coming 6 decades, near about 30 repertories that came out. By 1880, while Boni Hussein's work still prevailed in the field of repertory, a large number of clinical and regional repertories started appearing, particularly between 1880 to 1900. So, as many homeopaths, they write down their own index of symptoms, and many homeopaths, they are using the work of Pone Hussain. By 1880, as Pone Hussein's work still prevailed in the field of repertory, a large number of clinical and regional repertories, it started appearing. Many clinical repertories, many regional repertories, they are appearing. They came, they are written by many homeopaths. So by 1880, while Boni Hussein's work still prevailed in the field of repertory, many clinical repertories as well as regional repertories that started appearing till 900 years, 1900 years. A kind of confusion and unrest also prevailed, as there was great difference between the work, as a kind of confusion and unrest also prevailed, as there was great difference between the works of purists like Hempel, Hart and others, which were too rigid and lacked the elasticity of Boni Hussain, whereas latter was found to bring often only polycrace and not the one which was really indicated. So there were many differences in the opinion, there were many confusion afterwards in between homeopaths. How, which medicines we have to taken for repertorization, which are more important. In many concepts, there was confusion as well as there difference between the work of different homeopaths. To overcome these weaknesses in Boni Hussein's work, that is overgeneralization and lack of proper placement and weightage to mental symptoms, gradually led to new efforts, evolutionary in nature, and prepared a suitable ground for the emergence of a well organized, systematically planned repertory based on a sound philosophy of general to particular. Means, as many homeopaths, they go through Boni Hussein's work, Boni Hussein's repertories, but many of them, they get confused. Many of them, they does not satisfied with his work, because in his work there is overgeneralization as well as lack of proper placement of many rubrics. Many rubrics are misplaced, as well as in his repertory mental symptoms, he doesn't give weightage to the mental symptoms, because according to him mental symptoms are only useful to differentiate the simillimum, to differentiate the similar medicine from a group of similars. So in his repertory, in mind section, in mind subchapter, there are only 36 rubrics in his repertory, in which 18 are related to mind and 17 are related to intellect, and one is uh, in this way. In his repertory, he doesn't give importance to mental symptoms. Weightage to mental symptoms is very less, and many rubrics are misplaced. So many homeopaths, they were not satisfied with his work, and they gradually, slowly, they led to new efforts. They write down with new efforts, evolutionary in nature, and prepared a suitable ground for the emergence of a well-organized, systematically planned repertory which is based on sound philosophy, that is general to particular. His repertory is based on the complete symptom, and now many homeopaths, they are prepared, they are started to prepare their own index which is based on a sound philosophy of general to particular, that is which logic? From general to particular, deductive logic. This ultimately culminated in Kant's masterpiece work, Repertory of the Homeopathic Materia Medica, which was published in 1897. This work may be considered a desirable extension of, as also complementing Bonussen's work. So ultimately, after taking many efforts, gradually they write down, many homeopaths, they write down their own symptom of index based on a sound philosophy of general to particular, and ultimately the Kent's masterpiece, that is Repertory of Homeopathic Materia Medica, which was finally completed by Dr. Kent, and it was get published in 1897. So this work is also considered a desirable extension of, as also complementing Honigussen's work. Kent made fullest use of Honigussen's sensation and general modalities by incorporating them in generalities. It must be mentioned that Kent's work grew out of Boningussen's repertory of the antisoric. So ultimately, Boninghusen should rightly be called the father of repertory. So as Dr. Kent, he write down his own index of symptoms. While writing his own index, he used the sensation and general modalities